You have such beautiful hair.
The lady smiled as she passed me in the mall. Why, thank you. I shook my hair slightly for emphasis. That was only my 50th compliment about my hair today, and my ego was loving it. You see, ever since I was small, I had this thick, gorgeous hair that was always the envy of girls in my class from as early as preschool. At age 5, I began doing shampoo commercials, and I've been doing them ever since. With mom and dad running their own financial firm, I was left home alone a lot. Don't feel sorry for me just yet. Keep watching my story and see how everything worked out. Oh, and before I forget, I met my boyfriend Marco at one of the commercials I did. His hair wasn't as great as mine, but then again, whose hair was? Yes, Marco. I walked up the driveway and found my keys in my purse. I'll meet you around 6, but don't keep me waiting this time. I turned the key into the hole and pushed open the front door. I came face to face with Mom as she tried to fight off a tall, heavily bearded man. As soon as Mom saw me, her face grew pale. I saw the fear in her eyes.
Beverly, run!
Without thinking twice, I ran out of the house all the way to the bus stop. I sat on a bench and panted.
Hello? Hello? Bev, what's going on?
I forgot that I was on the phone with Marco. Marco, something happened. Can you come over? Marco agreed, and then we hung up. Who was that man? I'd never seen him before in my life. I didn't have to wait long for a bus, and approximately 30 minutes later, I arrived at Marco's. He was waiting on the front porch for me. He ran up and hugged me.
Babe, you're shivering. Let's go inside.
I nodded and allowed Marco to guide me into the house and to the kitchen. His parents were just like mine, very busy and hardly at home.
Did you call your dad?
Marco poured me a glass of juice as I sat by the kitchen table. Oh no, how could I have forgotten to call Dad? I quickly called Dad and explained everything to him while Marco prepared sandwiches for us.
Keep your phone close by.
Dad hung up the call. Marco placed the sandwiches on the table, but I pushed mine away.
Bev, everything will be okay.
Marco stood up and held my hand.
If you don't want to eat, then let's watch a movie together.
Marco took my hand and we went to the TV room where he switched on a movie. After a few hours, my phone rang and I answered frantically. Hello? Hello?
Bev, I've got Mom. Listen carefully.
Dad gave me an address to meet them and said,
Don't tell anyone, not even Marco.
The line went dead. I've got to go. I grabbed my purse and kissed him quickly. I'll call you later, I said on my way out. About 15 minutes later, as I passed an alley that was close to where Dad told me to meet them, I felt someone grab me around my waist and they threw their hand over my mouth and pulled me into an alley. I struggled until I heard Dad's voice.
Beverly, it's me.
Dad spun me around and I hugged him. My eyes landed on Mom. She had a swollen eye. I hugged her and cried.
We don't have time for this now. Beverly, give me your phone.
I handed Dad my phone and I watched as he separated it and destroyed it quickly. But Dad!
Let's go.
Dad held my hand and I followed him. The three of us wove between the streets and alleys and hid in the shadows until we came to a mountainside. With the help of Mom and Dad, I was able to reach the top. How far again? I wiped the sweat from my brow.
We're almost there.
Finally, we arrived at a large bronze gate. Dad punched in the numbers and the gate slowly opened and we headed into the house. The house looked like an old Victorian house from the late 50s on the outside, but once we got inside, it was modernized. As soon as the door closed, I looked at my parents. I demand to know what's going on.
Well?
Dad walked further into the house.
Your mom and I aren't who you think we are.
I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Mom added.
We steal for rich families.
I gasped. Is this why you're never home? Because you're common thieves?
There's nothing common about what we do.
Dad's eyes grew dark. I ignored Dad and continued. So you're common thieves that, let me guess, are running from the law? What did you do, leave a fingerprint for the police to find? Dad raised his hand to slap me, but Mom caught it just in time.
Beverly, when we went to retrieve the bracelet for our client, a $2 million bracelet, which was for the client's daughter's 18th birthday, I got jumped.
And it never would have happened, but you insisted on doing the job solo.
Dad rubbed his temples. I laughed. So another thief stole from you? That's laughable to say the least. This time, I got slapped, but it wasn't from Dad. It was from Mom.
If we don't find the bracelet, all of us will never be seen again. You better pull yourself together and stop with the snide remarks. I have plenty more where that came from.
I rubbed my face and willed myself not to cry. Why can't you just tell them you didn't get the bracelet?
Because?
Dad looked between Mom and I.
The bracelet was already paid for, and that's what they're expecting. We need to find those thieves before the client finds us.
Honey, one more thing.
Mom looked at me strangely.
You'll have to cut your hair.
What? No.
It wasn't a suggestion. You will be cutting your hair. And Gina, get out the tattoo kit. I think she'll look nice with freckles. They already have the pictures we need to create different personas. Let's get to work.
Over the next few hours, I changed from Beverly Madison to Faith Stevens. I cried throughout the entire process, from Mom cutting my hair to her tattooing freckles on my face. After a few hours, Mom, Dad, and I looked completely different. I couldn't believe my parents were doing this to me. They ruined my life. After my new look, I found a bedroom and locked the door. I hated my parents. Good parents don't bring harm to their children. Suddenly, I heard Mom as she spoke on the other side of my door. I opened the door slightly. Mom had a phone. I knew what I needed to do. Later that night, I snuck into the room my parents shared. Mom was fast asleep, but Dad was nowhere to be found. The phone was on Mom's nightstand. I grabbed it quickly and headed back to my room as quickly as I dared. As soon as I was safe inside, I locked the door and called Marco.
Hello?
His voice was husky. Hi, babe, it's me. You'll never guess what my parents did to me. I told them where we were and what transpired that afternoon at the house. I wish I could be with you, I groaned.
Why can't you? Leave now and I'll pick you up halfway. We'll talk to my parents and we'll find a way to handle it.
After a few minutes, I put the phone in my purse and slung my purse over my shoulder. I carefully slipped out the window and bolted to the front gate. I quickly scaled it and ran. As soon as I felt safe enough to stop, I called Marco and he picked me up.
Babe, I didn't recognize you. What did your parents do?
He asked as I jumped into the passenger seat. Thank you for coming. I knew I could depend on you. We passed the exit to get to his house. Where are we going?
My dad has a cabin by the Lapanaut River. I figured you'd be safer there.
We arrived at the cabin at 2 a.m. We were both so tired we fell asleep on the sofa. But when I woke up, I didn't expect things to take a turn for the worse. I opened my eyes slowly. They felt heavy and my head spun. It took me a while to realize where I was and that Marco and I were tied up in chairs. I was able to move the duct tape from my mouth after 10 minutes and I whispered to Marco, Marco, wake up. Please, wake up. I repeated. After a few minutes, his head moved from side to side until he stared at me. Just then, the door opened.
You brats are finally up.
Mom leaned against the doorframe. Mom, what are you doing here? Why are we tied up? Mom laughed.
You really thought I was asleep? You're as quiet as an elephant.
Mom rolled her eyes.
I knew you'd take my phone once you realized I had one. Once you had that, I was able to track you here.
Another person entered the room.
Hey, kids.
Marco's dad smiled. Mom, what is this?
Well, Leo and I are business partners.
He grabbed Mom and kissed her. Can you believe it?
Is that all I am?
Leo, not here.
Ew. Mom, where's Dad and what did you do?
As I was saying, Leo and I are business partners and we got a new buyer. We're on our way to take the bracelet to them right now. You and Marco will be used as collateral damage if need be.
But, Mom.
Don't but Mom me. I never wanted you. Your dad, on the other hand, always wanted a daughter. Imagine he even said he wanted to give up our lifestyle to spend more time with you. I wasn't about to let that happen, so I got rid of him.
We've wasted enough time, Gina. Shall we?
Mom smiled and walked behind Marco and I and hit us over the head. We both fell unconscious. I woke up to someone pouring water on my face.
Wake up, princess.
Leo snarled.
If either of you make a sound, that'll be the last sound you make, understood?
Marco and I nodded. Our hands were tied behind our backs as we were dragged out of the van and into the warehouse by Mom and Leo. One of the bodyguards at the entrance showed us to the waiting room. There were no windows nor any furniture in the room, except one tiny table in the corner. The door opened and a man in a suit with a briefcase walked in with 2 bodyguards.
Do you have the bracelet?
Mom pulled out the bracelet. The man took it, walked over to the table, and got to work. After inspecting the bracelet, he looked at the bodyguards.
Tell the boss it's the real thing.
One of the bodyguards left and returned shortly with the boss. Dad wore headphones on one ear, just like those secret agents, and was dressed in a black suit. I could tell Leo and Mom were also shocked by the nervous glances they shared.
Hello, Gina.
Dad nodded in Leo's direction.
Leo, release them.
He nodded to his bodyguards. Marco's and my ropes were untied and I rubbed the bruises on my wrists.
But how?
Mom stepped back fearfully. Dad cut off Mom.
I should be surprised, but honestly, I'm not. When I heard your plans for my informant, I didn't want to believe it, but I had to check it out.
Informant?
Mom raised an eyebrow.
Yes, his informant.
Marco stepped forward. Has my entire life been a lie? I screamed. Marco tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away.
Okay, boys, you can take them away.
Dad said into the speaker of his headphones. Men dressed all in black barged into the room, handcuffed Mom and Leo, and took them away.
I'm sorry, Beverly. I had to go through the motions with Mom or we would never have caught her, and she would have been bad for business.
All it's ever been for you is business. Maybe you should try working on your family, Dad. I pushed past Dad and Marco and walked out of the warehouse. About a year has passed and, well, things are still shaky between Dad and I, but he's been home a lot more. As for Marco, I ended the relationship. I mean, what kind of boyfriend keeps secrets from his girlfriend? I mean, I can't get rid of Dad because he's family. Or can I?
As I was leaving the store, my attention was caught by a guy standing by an expensive sports car. He wasn't alone. There were several beautiful girls with him. They were talking and laughing loudly. I wanted to pass by, but at the last moment I stopped. And for some reason, I decided to take a closer look at who he was. He was standing with his back to me, wearing a black baseball cap, arms crossed. There was something familiar about him, like I'd seen him somewhere before, but where? Suddenly, the guy turned around and looked at me. I opened my mouth wide in surprise, but I couldn't say anything. I quickly pulled myself together and walked away. The guy yelled after me,
Kaylee, you've got it all wrong. Wait a minute.
but I didn't want to listen, so I walked without looking back. Hi, as you may have realized, I'm Kaylee, and the guy with the sports car and the bunch of girls is my boyfriend. I don't know what surprised me more. The fact that he's rich and drives an expensive car, which costs more than our house, or that he was flirting with 3 girls at once. One thing I was sure of, our relationship was over. And how had it all started? Simon, that was my boyfriend's name, came to our school in his senior year. No one knew where he was from, who his mom and dad were, where they lived. He was quiet and didn't talk to anyone. My friend Karen said at that time, "What a handsome boy. He looks like Edward from Twilight. I hope he's a vampire too." Simon was acting really weird. He wasn't participating in any events. He didn't go to soccer games. He didn't seem interested in anything. But I was wrong. I was president of the literary club at the time, and there were 3 of us, Samantha, Peter, and I. Samantha went to meetings because her mother told her to, and Peter thought the literary group would help him find a girl. He was sorely mistaken. At our school, reading Shakespeare and Byron didn't make you attractive in the eyes of the cheerleaders or the players on the local soccer team. At another assembly, we were discussing Victorian literature. Suddenly, the door to the classroom swung open. There was a confused Simon standing in front of us. "Hi, I'm Simon. Is this the literature club?" he asked, looking embarrassed. He was clearly uncomfortable with us staring at him like he was Mona Lisa. "Yes," Peter said. "Come on in. I'm Kaylee, the president of the club." I introduced myself and then said Peter and Samantha's names. "Cool," Simon said. "Can I join you?" "Sure. It's a little less crowded in here," I said, pointing to an empty chair. Simon was now the 4th member of the club. Surprisingly, he was educated and fit right in. Since then, our meetings have been much more interesting and fun. One day, he told me about himself. "My family and I came from a small town in the south of the country. Dad had been offered a job here." "Oh, what does he do?" I asked him. "He works in a mannequin factory." "He does? I didn't know we had one." "Yeah, it's not much money, but it's enough for us." "What do you think of our place?" "It's nice. The people here are friendly. Not like at my last school. They didn't like me much there." I even felt sorry for him. That's why he was so quiet. "But things will be different now. Peter and Kelly really liked you." "I hope you did too." I blushed and added timidly, "Yeah, me too." Anyway, that's how our relationship started. But as time went on, I noticed some strange things that I hadn't noticed before. For example, Simon never invited me to his house. He said he had a sick father, and it was better to go to my place. He also refused to appear in expensive restaurants. Now I understand why. Everyone knew him there. Ugh, I was stupid. I thought he was sincere and wouldn't lie to me. After that unfortunate encounter at the store, Simon had followed me all over the school. Look, I didn't want to. I had my reasons. I paused and asked with undisguised annoyance, "What was it?" "Well, Simon started to stammer and didn't answer. "I see." I turned around and walked away. I told Karen after school, but the reaction I got wasn't what I'd hoped for. "Okay, that's cool. Maybe he can buy you a car or take you to Italy after the exams." "I don't need Italy," I said. "All this time, he's been pretending that his family can barely make ends meet, that he has a sick father and all that, and it turns out that he's almost the adopted son of Elon Musk." "I don't get you," Karen sighed. When the whole school found out, it was more or less the same reaction my friend had. Around Simon now constantly circled a swarm of annoying schoolgirls who dreamed that he would buy them an island in the middle of the ocean. But Simon didn't want anyone but me. Anyone would have been flattered. But at the time, I was terribly angry with him and rejected any attempt of reconciliation. However, I hadn't considered one important quality of Simon's. He was incredibly persistent. I was therefore about to be rained with gifts and scenes straight out of the 90s romantic comedies. It started out classic. Simon sent me a huge bouquet of 1,000 roses. The bouquet took up almost the entire living room. "Is that from Simon?" my mother asked. "Yeah," I said, reading the apology note. "You could have forgiven him by now." "You too." "Well, our house won't be able to stand one more bouquet." Here she was right. Now the room was like a greenhouse. He did not stop at one bouquet. One morning, a band he hired sang my favorite song outside my window. It was worse than any alarm clock. I stuck my head out the window, told them my father would set the dogs on them, and the musicians quickly disappeared. There was a heated discussion about Simon in the literary club, too. I insisted that he should be excluded, but Samantha and Peter disagreed. "You can't kick him out because he lied to you," Peter tried to defend Simon. "Actually, he lied to everyone," Samantha pointed out. "Thank you," I said. "But you still can't rule him out," she shrugged. I never managed to get rid of Simon. He was at every meeting of the club, and he came to our house to visit my parents. They really liked my ex-boyfriend. My mom and dad were mad at me for breaking up with him, as they said he was a great guy. Everyone was on his side. On Halloween, Simon threw a huge party at his parents' mansion. I wasn't going to go, of course, but my parents literally forced me out of the house. "No excuses," Mom said, and slammed the door in my face. I had to go. Simon's house looked like a palace. The marble floors, the statues, the huge canvases that covered the walls. Almost the entire school came to the party. Among the crowd, I found Samantha and Peter. They were dancing without noticing me. I didn't want to disturb them, so I went upstairs, away from the noisy crowd. After walking through a dozen rooms, I found myself on the balcony. The view was amazing. The whole city at my fingertips. Just then, I heard a door open behind me, and Simon's face appeared in the bright lights of the illumination. "There's nowhere to hide from you," I said irritably, and continued to stare at the lights of the sleeping city. "It's my house." Simon stood next to me, leaning against the railing too. "And I thought you were living in a miserable room above an old bar." "Well, not exactly. Not at all." "Look," Simon hesitated, as if he wanted to say something. I didn't mean to lie. "Then why did you? Because of the girls?" "No, I don't care about them. I just used to be treated like a jerk. At my last school, no one liked me. They thought I was a spoiled son of a billionaire and everything." "Is that why you made up that story about your dad working in a factory?" "Yes. I didn't want my father's money to always be ahead of me. Some people flatter you, some envy you, some hate you. I was tired of it. I don't know if it was his story or the moon shining brightly in the starry sky that did the trick, but after a moment, we kissed. But I wouldn't be me if I hadn't pushed Simon away and run away." I don't know, I was still angry. Not as angry, but something was keeping me from accepting the fact that he wasn't the man I'd fallen in love with a few weeks ago. Walking down the street at night, I suddenly heard someone else's footsteps behind me, and I turned around and saw someone following me. My heart began to beat faster. I wished I had stayed home. The footsteps grew louder. Was that Simon following me? Yeah, it had to be Simon. I calmed myself mentally, but hurried forward. Suddenly, someone grabbed my arm and I screamed loudly. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Simon also appeared, pushing the man hard aside. Together, we ran towards the park. I don't know how long we ran. I was afraid to look back to see if the man was following us. Finally, Simon said, "Stop. I think we've run away. I can't see him anymore." I stopped and I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing and I couldn't breathe properly. Simon took my hand and I started to calm down. "Who was that?" I asked, still nervously looking around. "Some jerk." He put his arm around me and I felt better. "I'm sorry again for lying to you," he whispered, barely audible in my ear. "I'm sorry too for acting like a fool. If it hadn't been you, who knows what would have happened to me." Without letting go of my hand, Simon walked me home. We didn't tell my parents what happened. I didn't want them to worry too much. When Mom and Dad saw that I'd come with Simon, they were over the moon. They even offered to let him stay for tea. "No thanks," he politely declined. I walked him to the door and hugged him tightly, unable to hold back the tears. "It's okay," the boy said caringly. "It's okay." The Cold War between me and Simon was over. We were a couple again. I was as happy about that as he was. But as it turned out, we weren't the only ones who got closer that night. Peter and Samantha started dating too. Now our literature club meetings were like a couple's date, though that didn't stop us from having fierce arguments about the work of Oscar Wilde or Dickens. A little later, Simon introduced me to his parents. His father was a businessman, always at work. His mother was also engaged in dozens of committees and charities, but they were nice to me, even though I wasn't from a wealthy family. Being with Simon, when he wasn't hiding who he really was great, though it was still hard for me to get used to him giving me expensive gifts and traveling together on vacations. What would you do if you found out your boyfriend was lying to you and he's actually a millionaire? Write your answers in the comments, like the video, and share it with your friends.